So when we get into arguments of justice, loss, payments, costs, it turns into kind of a mess. And so in Minnesota, we've had several black men killed by cops over the past several years. And the interesting thing for me immediately when I got news that George Floyd had been murdered was there was a black man killed by a cop, Philando Castile, shot by Geronimo Yanez, and Geronimo Yanez got off. And then there was a black cop who shot a white woman. Mohamed Noor shot a white woman in St. Louis Park, and he is serving 12 and a half years in prison. And now you have a white cop who has killed a black man and was immediately put on paid leave, then right away after that fired. Now, today, Wednesday, May 27th, they're saying that they're going to be arresting said white cop and the 4 other cops that were with him. And this brings about the question of what is justice? And I think this is an extremely turbulent question to ask. And I think it looks different to everybody. And for myself, I think it's important to talk about what is the narrative that we want to engage with that's going to bring about healing, as opposed to this idea of justice. And the legal system, as much disparity, racially, economically, it just entirely with sociological identity, it's tipped in the scales of power, rank, and privilege heavily to favor heavily to benefit white supremacy. The legal system is going to do what it's going to do, and it's tough to watch because it's something that's out of our control. And if it is within our control, please write in the comments below and tell me how does civic engagement impact the legal system? Because it can feel so helpless and powerless standing outside of it. However, what I want to speak to is what is the healing that can take place going forward, regardless of the justice. And I heard a few arguments saying, okay, well, is this cop going to get more years than Mohamed Noor? That is going to directly tell you how the legal system views white cops versus black cops right off the bat. And there will be a lot of legal jargon that's thrown in to say, this and this was happening, oh, this and this is permissible, oh, this and this is legal, or this and this is illegal. And the lawyers will tie it up in a absolute, litigation fricassee for Lord knows how long. And the idea is that whoever wins out or whoever convinces the court more, it's going to be what it's going to be. My question to you is, what does healing look like? What does the conversation look like? Where do you start in a situation like this where you may feel so powerless? And even though we may seek justice, what does justice look like to you? And I've seen a lot of people write, they need to do this, and that, and the third to the cops, and mention terms of violence and whatnot, which personally for me I don't agree with. However, I understand that personally a lot of people are hurting as well. And I'm curious, how do you deal with yourself in light of these events, and somewhat kind of find healing for yourself? And what's the work going forward that you want to do, as opposed to really engaging with a vengeance? And obviously, it's a thing that they got arrested right away, and it makes you think: is that because of the public outcry? Would they have arrested them as quickly as they did had there not been a public outcry and a protest on 38th in Chicago where George Floyd was murdered? That's the work I'm talking about. Like, we talk about, well, we have to wait till we take it to the voting booth, or well, we're going to have to wait until we can elect a new mayor, or well, we have to wait until we can pass that law. What's the work that starts now for you? What's the work that starts now? Not waiting for the trial, not waiting for who gets prosecuted or defended. What's the work that starts now for you? And also, should the work be continuing for you? For a lot of people, this is bringing a new event to them, and it's a spark to start real work. Should the work have been going on before this? Probably, yeah. And so what can you do to continue the work so it doesn't come to a situation of, well, so-and-so got this many years, how many years should he get? Or, well, somebody else died again, we got to take it to the streets. What is the continual, perpetual work that you can do that kind of gets out of this idea of justice, but into healing, momentum, and proactivity? And I'm curious what that looks like to you. And yeah, this video kind of went all over the place. And I initially was going to start out with, what do you think should happen to this police officer? And I kind of found that to be a really dangerous and not productive question to ask just as I was talking about it. And I kind of just divvied off into what is the work you want to do going forward. And also, what has this shown you about people around you? There's a lot of media outlets that have not spoken to this at all because they don't have to. How has this conversation really impacted your community, impacted you, and how do you heal going forward? And also, how can you support people in healing going forward? So I think those are huge questions we need to ask ourselves as we progress and get proactive with this. So feel free to write however you kind of go about your work or healing in light of these events going forward. And how do you I guess the question is, how do you plan on continuing that work as well? So it's just not waiting for another tragedy. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this one kind of went all over the place. And definitely we'll see you in the next video, and I hope to hear from you in the comments. Later. Cool.